In this episode of Restore It, the Mercedes is going for a full respray after some final prep, which I'll be doing most of. Now that wasn't the plan, that's just how things turned out. This is the first car I've had to prepare for a full respray, and I know it's going to be a big job making sure every inch of the surface of this car is ready for it. It feels like the more you look, the more there is to sort out. I've got a lot of respect for the pros who do it properly in a timely manner. I've already spent way too long messing around with this thing. I've also got the job of masking all of the windows, the boot, boot lid, bonnet and engine bay. But before I can get to all of that, I first need to sand down the Highbuild that Bobby from Vehicle Paintwork Specialist sprayed last time he visited the shop, as well as flattening the whole car with 1000 grit. One of the big problems with my current workshop is that because it has a double roof, it's too dark to properly see what's going on, and with something like car paint, it has to be absolutely perfect. So to make sure I catch every imperfection, I'm going to do all of this outside. Thankfully it's summer, and so it's a joy to do. With all of the Highbuild primer flat, I can now focus on flattening the entire car with a 1000 grit sanding pad. But like I said, it always feels like something really obvious pops up just when you think you're done. I've just noticed that big blob of sealer on the front of the bonnet for the grille. That definitely needs to be removed. But before I get started on that, I want to quickly thank Pinecone Research for partnering with me on this episode. If you want an easy way to earn cash, gift cards and real items by completing surveys, then look no further than Pinecone, a service that I sometimes use to pass the time whilst paint dries or if I'm on the train for a few stops. There's a couple of things that make Pinecone stand out. Firstly is that it's invite only, meaning that you get access to exclusive opportunities and guaranteed payouts for every survey that you take, and that amount is higher than your average survey site due to the exclusivity. Secondly is that there are opportunities to test and review brand new products and get rewarded for it. So if you're looking to give your opinion and get paid for it, click my link at the top of the description and sign up today because remember, Pinecone is invite only, so my link is your way in. Big thanks to Pinecone for supporting the channel, let's get back to the Mercedes. Whatever this sealant is, it's super thick and tricky to remove. This blade can only do so much. I'm using some 80 grit to sand it down further, and then I'm going to finish it with a wire wheel on the rotary tool. I can now add some filler to this section and many other spots on the rest of the car, which will then be sanded down and high built over. There are still quite a few imperfections to address, but I first need to mask everything up so it's ready for the full respray and so that I can spray some more primer around the windows without getting paint in the car. I did a little bit of research and found backmasking to be the best way to mask most of the large gaps like this window. What you do is put the tape around the edge of the bit you want to mask and have it facing you. Then add masking paper over the gap, making sure you leave space on that tape. And then finally add more tape over the paper and onto the backmasking, creating a really good seal that doesn't touch the edges of what you're painting. I'm going to really speed through all of this masking, it took so long it could be a 10-minute episode on its own. With the left windows done, I can now do the rear lights and the boot. I'm quite happy with this. It's so satisfying to do, it looks great, and you can even open and close the boot lid. I do bloody impress myself sometimes. Up next is the rear windscreen. My camera has a 20-minute recording limit, and I must have reached it 10 times masking this car. It took me that long. So sorry for the random cuts here and there, and the fact that it turns from day to night multiple times. I'm working on multiple things at once, not just this Mercedes, which isn't the right thing to do, and which is why I can't wait to get this finished and spread myself a little less thin. Moving on to the right window and front windscreen, I'm getting a little bit quicker at this now. All of that undersill I added onto the sills needs to be protected. I probably should have left it until after the respray, but you live and learn. Lastly is the bonnet, which is the largest and most difficult thing to mask. So of course, my camera gave up on me. But you get the idea. What I'm doing now is just going over the entire car and marking all of the bits that I've missed up to this point that need filler and filling them. Whilst that round of filler is drying, I'm going to Highbuild over all of the white primer, 1 to bring the difference in colour down, and 2 because I keep using slightly the wrong sanding paper, making so much more work for myself. This is definitely a learning experience for me. It was now just a case of carefully sanding down all of the filler and priming over it, ready for one final flattening. At this point, I've done as much as I can to get this ready without a professional overlooking. Off camera, Bobby and Declan from Vehicle Paintwork Specialists came round and helped me push the car into their workshop. As I suspected, there's a few spots that need sorting, and this time I'm going to leave it to the professionals. One little problem that's occurred is that I told Bobby I had 2K paint, which wasn't 100% true. He thought I meant a 2K gloss brown that doesn't require a clear coat and does a really good job at covering imperfections, when in fact I have base coat and a 2K clear coat separately, which in reality will only enhance any imperfections and means the prep has to be absolutely perfect. It's not the end of the world, it just means we need to add more primer than we first thought. The base coat we're going to be using is the same Standox paint they would have used in the factory when the car was first made. Top quality German stuff. I spoke to Chris at Spray Guns Direct at length about what paint we should use, and he was, as always, super helpful. As for the clear coat we're going to be using, it's of course quartz crystal clear. I've used this paint for years now, and I've always wanted to see a full car finished in it. This is one of the best clear coats you can get, and I can't wait to see the results. So with some final masking and sanding done, it's ready for 3 or 4 good coats of Mercedes Manganese Matte Brown. The first coat covers all of the primer and the front wing to make sure those colours don't bleed through. The next few coats are put on progressively thicker, but only ever so slightly. In the end, we went with 4 coats of base coat. Now it's onto the crystal clear. The first coat of clear is like the second coat of base coat, much lighter than the ones to follow, but making sure good coverage is achieved. The next 2 coats are applied much slower and thicker, creating that glass-like effect. And there we go, finally painted, and it actually looks pretty darn good. Bobby's very happy with how it came out, and so am I. The hours of welding and prep have just paid off, and I can now really see the end of this project and the return of my sanity. Once the paint is hardened, the last step will be to flatten it with a superfine grit and then polish it to make it pop. So that's all from me for now. Behind the scenes, I've been working on the 325i Sport at every chance I get, so expect a comeback episode on that soon, and also the rebuild of this newly painted Mercedes. Thanks ever so much for watching, I hope to see you in the next one.